Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at some new cards. There's been a bunch of new cards that have been revealed. We are expecting the full reveal of the set Lost Abyss tomorrow. That is generally the way it works. It is out a week tomorrow. So tomorrow over on the official website, we should get the full reveal of every missing card. So this seems like a really nice chance to have a little bit of an update and to go through all of the cards that have been revealed so far that we haven't had a chance to talk about. Of course, all of these cards will be in Lost Origin, and I am just assuming at this stage that between me recording this and me getting a chance to upload it, more cards will be revealed, because come on, how could it be any different? But we might as well start off having a little bit of a look at a card that I am way more excited about than I should be. There's a new Wailord. As a side note, some of these cards have been revealed in the Chinese language rather than the usual Japanese. We know that does happen sometimes nowadays. Don't worry about it. The translations here are from the lovely Antoine Boulet, but the Chinese translations start off with Blue Days, who translated from Chinese into Japanese, and then turn into the lovely Antoine Boulet, who's translated them from Japanese into English. So Wailord then, what have we got? 200 HP, which is absolutely gigantic for a stage 1 Pokemon. I love me some Wailord. I love the high HP. I am very excited. It's not hugely unusual. Wailord's had 200 HP for a while. That's not the point. I love this. In fact, the one that came around a while ago now in Celestial Storm actually had 220 HP. That's Wailord's record as a single prize Pokemon up to now. So we've got gigantic HP, but come on, it's Wailord. That was always going to happen. Do we have ourselves anything else? Well, we've got an ability that reads, this Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks. So not only do we have a gigantic Pokemon with redonkulous HP, we're also taking 30 less damage from attacks. That's going to give some staying power. Not to mention, of course, being a water Pokemon, you can accelerate energy with stuff like Frostmoth, and you're going to need to, because this attack is not cheap. Free water, 1 colorless energy, 120, but if you've got any special energy attached, you deal 240. I actually love this, because use something like Capture Energy to get set up in the early game, or anything along those lines, and you're hitting 240, which is enough to KO Pokemon V, and with a choice belt, will put you up to 270, which will KO a whole bunch of VSTAR, and then all you need to do is use something like a Radiant Blastoise, which in a water deck with lots of energy you're not going to worry about, and then you can actually KO any Pokemon VSTAR. Sure, it's expensive, but you're talking about a single prize Pokemon that's one-hit KOing Pokemon VSTAR. That is something I think we can start getting a little bit excited about. I actually really like this, and I'm not afraid to say it. Now, as for the Magcargo, yeah, that's right, there's a new Magcargo. You can already see on the screen that it does interact with the Lost Zone. It's got those wispy things. Is it any good? Well, for free energy, you do 220 damage, which is actually really high and really good, and yay! But, and here is a big but, you put all energy attached to the Pokemon into the Lost Zone. It's still lots of damage, so it's still worth kind of considering. Free energy's not horrendous. Of course, we got Magma Basin nowadays, which can attach 1 energy to it, so that's going to help. And then 220, I mean, it's not hitting the numbers quite like Wailord. The difference here essentially is, whereas Wailord with a choice bout can get V-Star, this is really good at getting Pokemon V. Hitting 220 is a good number for Pokemon V, but you're not really threatening V-Star. With a choice bout, you're up to 250, and there are weaker Pokemon V-Star that have 250, but not really enough of them to get excited about. It's still a single prize Pokemon that can get one-hit KOs on Pokemon V. So in that regard, it's still kind of nice. But I do worry that this one is, at the risk of sounding a little bit mean, maybe not quite good enough. But there's one more card that got revealed in the Chinese language, so let's go and have a little bit of a look at Amoongus. Because why not, ladies and gentlemen? And what we've got here is a very low 90 HP, but do remember that does open up level ball, so it's not the end of the world. There's at least an advantage here. And you've got an ability, if during your opponent's turn, this card is discarded from your hand by an effect of your opponent's attack, item, or supporter, discard your opponent's hand. Yes. All of the yes. And there are a couple of things you can do here. You can play this as a surprise, and if your opponent plays any hand disruption, ha! But also, you're going to search it out with level ball and leave it in your hand. And then, any time your opponent is trying to, or at least considering a bit of hand disruption, discarding cards from your hand, etc., they know that there is a chance that they could hit the Amoongus and then they lose their entire hand, and that might be too much to do. I legit love this against, and there's not a huge amount of them around at the moment, admittedly, but against any hand disruption deck that's looking to discard cards from your hand, this is, I mean, it's a real nuclear option. It's a real all-in thing, and I love it. Because it's one card that can completely and utterly torpedo one of your opponent's strategies, and for that reason, I like it very, very much indeed. This is one of the more interesting cards we've seen for a long time, and I absolutely love it. Now, there are a couple of psychic Pokemon that were revealed in Japanese. We should have a little bit of a look at those ones as well. Starting off with a lovely new Mimikyu. Oh, Amoongus, I should say, has an attack. It's 50 damage plus sleep. Nobody cares. That's not why we're playing the card. Back to Mimikyu then. 70 HP is very low, but it is a basic. Single Psychic Energy Confusion, not good. But Psychic Colorless Energy, 10 damage for each damage counter on all of your opponent's Pokemon in play. Oh yeah, no, now that's a lot more interesting. That's significantly more fun, ladies and gentlemen. This we can absolutely get behind. I love this. I think this is really good. Now, it is 2 energy, not 1, so you're going to need a tiny bit of energy acceleration, but it's 1 colorless energy. I'm sure you'll be fine. But what's really good about this is that if you're playing any kind of spread deck or any kind of deck which is trying to get lots of energy on the board before you start taking KOs, Mimikyu becomes an absolute ridiculous powerhouse. Any card which is really aiming to spread damage or take 2-hit KOs or whatever, I absolutely adore. Like, if you've hit 2 VSTAR but not managed to KO them yet, you can then KO a fresh VSTAR because there's going to be enough damage on the board from the 2 hits to the VSTAR that haven't been KO'd. I think this is quite specific as to the kind of decks in which it's going to work. I don't necessarily think you can just chuck this in any deck and be guaranteed to be successful. But I absolutely think, if you're playing a spread deck, you've got to play this, right? You've got to. I like this. As well as this, we have also got ourselves a lovely new Hypno, which is coming in. 3 energy, 90 damage, nothing to get excited about, let's move on. But single energy, psychedelic cool, search your deck for up to 2 stage 1 Pokemon and put them onto your bench. And yes, the entire point of this is that you are breaking the rules. That you are playing these cards, even though they're stage 1 Pokemon, you're playing them straight to the bench without having to muck around with any of that evolution rubbish. And I really like this. I think this is really good. Now, it is a stage 1 itself, so it gets a little bit awkward. You basically have to get a stage 1 out to then get 2 more stage 1s. But I think all in all, it's worth it. I think the benefit you're getting is worth the awkwardness of having to get this out. It is only a single energy, which I very much appreciate. And essentially, the question is, are you going to get enough benefit from the 2 stage 1s that you search with this? And if you are, this is really good. The issue here is really time. Because essentially, turn 2, best case scenario, turn 2 you get this out. At which point you get your stage 1s, so then you're heading into turn 3 with these stage 1s on the board. And that can be a little bit awkward. but it can also be brilliant and set you up for the game and lead to some amazing combos. It's another one of those things where the majority of the player base aren't going to use this. But there's probably going to be a couple people out there that come up with absolutely ridiculous combos that break this card wide open, and I find that very, very interesting indeed. But then we finish up with a card that was a little bit hyped. Pokemon did that thing that they tend to do where they were like, hey, we're reprinting an old card. Now, last time they told us we were getting an item card back, everyone got super excited. It turned out to be Energy Lotto, so people were a little bit more cautious this time round, and they were absolutely right to be. We got a reprint of Lady. And Lady's still a nice card. You know, Lady is your search your deck for 4 basic energy and put them into your hand. And there are absolutely going to be decks that want to use this. But shall we say it's yeah. It's not exactly the card everyone was clamoring for. Came around last in Forbidden Light, which was a little while ago at this stage. And it's a good card. But it's very specific. You know, right now, one card we see played an awful lot is your Galarian Moltres, because you can bench it with 2 extra energy attached to it. And you really want 3 energy, 1 to attach normally, 2 to attach with the ability. Well, Galarian Moltres will be able to use 3 of the energy from Lady, and then maybe you can find a way to discard the 4th and then accelerate it with a Galarian Moltres V, for instance. That can work. And it's things like that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Lady is going to become a staple in every deck. It's not. But I'm also not going to sit here and tell you that Lady is a rubbish card that's going to see no play and is not even remotely viable, because that's not true either. It's an interesting card that, for decks that want to get lots of energy in their hands super quickly, is a really, really nice option. But that's it. And it's not a nice option for anything more than that. In specifically those decks, great. In basically any other deck, not great. So there you have it. It's got some uses, but let's not all go pretending it's perfect, because it's not. And as predicted, before we finish the video, I need to show you another new card, which was of course revealed between recording and uploading this video, because why wouldn't they reveal new cards between recording and uploading this video? But it's a rather interesting new Metagross card, so I think I'm willing to make an exception. Now, I'll be honest with you, I tried really hard to translate this myself, and I got the attack, and I think I got Beldum, which is very relevant. I didn't get Metagross's ability. I got parts of it, but I couldn't put it all together, so that does come from the lovely Antoine Boulet. Now, 170 HP for a stage 2 is high. That's about as high as we get, and the ability is really good here. Once during your turn, if you drew this Pokemon from your deck at the beginning of your turn and your bench isn't full, before you put it into your hand, you may put it onto your bench. If you do, draw 3 cards. I hope you can all realise at this stage that, you know, I'm quite early on in trying to translate Pokemon cards. I've been learning for a while. Abilities like this are what's going to trip me up in my trying to translate cards myself. But yeah, this is really good. Now, it has to be at the beginning of your turn, so what you can do is just play a bunch of Metagross and cross your fingers and hope. But there are ways to stack the deck. So use something like an Oranguru. Use Oranguru to put this on top of your deck, and you basically say to your opponent, disrupt my deck, or I'm getting this for free. And sure, they can play a Marnie or a bunch of other cards that will make you draw cards or make you shuffle your deck or whatever, and they will stop this, but it's at least a way of saying to your opponent, stop me or I'm going to do it. Now, the attack for 1 metal, 1 colorless does 100 damage, but during your next turn, it does 200 instead. Now, remember, it doesn't go 100, 200, 300, etc. It goes 100, 200, 200, 200, 200, 200, 200. Okay. Here's the thing. If you switch to the bench and come active again, this runs out. So if your opponent plays something like Boss's Orders, for instance, it's over. And that's a problem, I'll be honest with you. It's an awkward card. The 2 energy, if this was a 1 energy attack, maybe. But the fact that it's a 2 energy attack and going to the bench ruins it. I mean, that pretty much tells you everything you need to know, which is rubbish. boo, etc. Although I believe the Beldum here actually lets you search your deck for any card and put it on top of your deck. This one I did translate for me, so fingers crossed. But that's actually really good, of course, because if you use this attack, obviously that's the end of your turn, and once again, if your opponent doesn't disrupt your deck, you're getting Metagross for free at the start of your next turn. Go second, turn 1, use Beldum, turn 2, Metagross. That's not bad, ladies and gentlemen. That's not bad. I just wish it had a better attack. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Some super interesting new cards. Wailord being able to KO in one hit VSTARs is a pretty big deal. Amoongus being able to, completely wreck your opponent's hand in one shot is a pretty big deal. There are absolutely decks that are going to want to use Lady. There are spread decks out there that are going to get a kick out of Mimikyu. Sure, these are cards that were, they're not absolutely the focus of reveals, but let's make no mistake about it, these are very interesting cards that absolutely could see a bunch of play and could end up being good, and I, for one, am pretty excited about them. But I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.